right. Okay, so what's our next strategy? Let's make some Lenethailef that's more Lenethailef-y and some Lenethailef that's more Justamija-y. So given this, muwo fa, moof. Ah, nice and concise. Okay, Hi, YouTube. Goodness gracious. Welcome. It's another fun day to work on conlangs. We're going to be working on the relationship today between the Justamija language and the Lenethailef language, but we're not going to be working on the genetic relationship between the two. After all, they are more or less sister languages, but we're going to be working on the sociolinguistic relationship between the two. We're going to make it so that Lenethailef is more of a spoken language and Justamija is more of a literary or written language, at least at some point in the two languages' history. And so this is going to shape what Lenethailef looks like, with perhaps loan words coming in from Justamija. And so that's the gist, that's the plan. I think we are going to have to scoot me over to the corner because I'm the least interesting thing that we're going to see today. So over into the corner we go. And what are we looking at? We are looking at the rough timeline that we worked out last week on the left. And I have the venerable grammar, comparative grammar of the Call languages by Cornelius Q. Spratt, our fictional linguist. We are going to be playing a little bit more in this document today because we've worked out a lot since the last time last time we opened this file. All right. Oh, Max, that's so kind of you to say. I have some ideas. I would like to do some recordings of, especially of Old English, in audiobook form. I don't know. That could happen in the future. Galactic Sand, yeah, it could be similar to the relationship between Hebrew and Aramaic. That's another good example. And we could get some doublet words, as Ship points out. Doublets are words where you get where there's one sort of etymological form that enters the language twice, so to speak. So either in some cases it's one is inherited and another is borrowed. So an example of this would be what would be a good example of this in English? Never think at the blackboard. I'm thinking of something like people and popular. They're different parts of speech, but one comes from French and one comes from Latin directly. And so we have these two, or here's another good one that I love, fence and defense. So the etymology of fence is actually a clipped form of defense. They come from the same etymological source, but borrowed twice. Have and capture. Yeah, that's a more distant doublet. Cool. Okay, so this is the sandbox we're going to be playing in today. So, all right, let's orient ourselves. I'm going to first go through this document, which is very, very sparse right now, and correct anything that's no longer accurate. So we're calling it a comparative grammar of the Call languages with special attention paid to the varieties spoken in the Justamija region. I'd like now this document not to be a grammar particularly of Justamija. I'd like it to be a kind of a comparative grammar of Lenethailef and Justamija. So with special attention woken to the Lenethailef and Justamija varieties. Oops. Don't mess up my formatting, please. By Cornelius Q. Spratt, that has to stay. We can look. Okay, so we haven't made huge decisions about endonyms and exonyms. In terms of demography, talk about the how widespread the family is, containing at least 4 widely spoken, instead of languages, we'll say branches, because we don't want to tie our hands. We could have more. The 2 languages of interest to us are Justamija, and if this is going to be a classical language at this point, we may have it be more like this, which was spoken in the Fragrant Coast region. And let's see, when abouts are we going to say that this grammar was written? I think we could probably set it at around 500 years before the present. before Lenethailef is under the influence of Kranslor, and we get this formation of a creole. So in this kind of early Lenethailef period. So why don't we say, so at this point, Justamija has not been spoken as such for 200 years. We'll have to figure out what happened there. Maybe it diverged into some descendant languages, who knows? But we could say, which was spoken in the fragrant coast region until 200 years ago. Our Justamija, which is spoken in the fragrant coast region until 200 years ago, and which survives as a literary language. Justamija is a long sentence. Let's break it up with a 1 and a 2. And 2. Lenethailef, the most widely spoken language in the blah 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 region. Other languages related to these two can be found from somewhere to somewhere. Who knows what these things are? So these are our little placeholders. I should put them all as the same so that I can just Control F and find what I haven't, what I have to change. And all right, okay. As for the relationship between the call languages and other families, I'm going to boost the font size here. I think we're being a bit stingy with the, yeah, there we go. As for the relationship between the call languages and other families, many proposals have been advanced, but none has yet been proven. That sounds right to me. We probably have some things that we could say about the sociolinguistic situation, but let's just make sure we haven't changed anything else yet. The pronoun system, blah, blah, blah. All right, that's fine. All of these things are fine. Justamija is an SOV language. Well, we can talk about Lenethailef, by contrast, is predominantly an SVO language. This is one of the big differences between the two. Great. And then we could put in an example here, which we'll do later. Great. Nothing else of interest. Okay, so we've cleaned that up now. That's good. So let's write down the date of publication so that we remember what phase of the language we are describing. So 500 before present. We'll come in, we'll have to do some world building to come up with a dating system that makes sense in the context of the world. But for now, just so that we have something, we can put that there. Okay. Now let's look a little bit at the one lone morpheme that we came up with last week into Lenethailef. So we have in our poem this word blessing, and it's lunukech. So that's in the accusative, but the word would be lunuk or lunuk. I'm not sure. I have to remember what decisions we made about stress in Lenethailef. Lunuk, blessing. This uk is actually a straight borrowing from the, where is it? Justamija grammar. From the substantive suffix in Lenethailef, which is a uvular stop. So we get enclose, antuk, or antuk. And so that gets borrowed into Lenethailef as this k suffix. So we have literally the blessing. We have this nominalization suffix for kind of high register words, which will be this k suffix in Lenethailef. So let's see, did we use it anywhere else? Ah, yes. Susuke, feeling. So let's document this. We will have to, let's see, where can we document this? Derivational morphology, we can say Lenethailef has inherited or has borrowed the Justamija suffix q as k. How do I construct this sentence? Lenethailef has borrowed the Justamija substantive suffix q as ka as k, which is used productively as a nominalization suffix on verbs. Cool. All right. E.g., what did we have? We had something. We had bless, right? Lunu. What was my typographical convention here? Help me out. Help me out. Okay, so in quotes, the meaning. Right. Okay, so to bless, and then we can. Come on, Google Sheets, help me out with like one of those cool auto arrows. All right, for now. Great. All right, so making decisions, having a good time, cracking wise. It's all here. Okay, what's next? What's next indeed? So one thing that I think we could do, let's see if we can get this side by side. We have a worksheet here, I believe. Does it have, I'm looking for some Lenethailef sentences. These are, okay, well, we have our poem. That's good enough. Best poem ever written here. And then let's take Justamija and bring that up. So texts. So we have our nice story about the swan. Let's bring this up to 14 or 18 maybe. Yes, excellent. Okay. So we have this very strong tendency towards so Justamija is a very strongly OV language, and Lenethailef is a VO language. So the verb will precede the object in Lenethailef, not so in Justamija. So Justamija is on the right here. Let's see if we can find a transitive sentence. Not a lot. Eats the weeds. Sasachna. Looks like we've left something undone here. That's unlike us / me. Or maybe it's exactly like me. Let's find, give me a transitive sentence. Here's one. Drowned himself. So, lak wawansim. So, lak is the reflexive pronoun. Wawansim, drowned. So we have this OV structure, and in Lenethailef we have a VO structure. So mith, you, anaglathus, cross, if cross, tamanech, the river. So SVO. What I'm thinking is that in more Justamija influenced versions of Lenethailef, we might see more of that OV structure coming up. So that's one thing that we could investigate. Hey, it's another version of me on this spreadsheet. Hello, other Colin. It's always scary when you see you're in a Google Doc, it's late at night and you're typing away, you're hard at work, maybe you're working on a dictionary, you're working on a grammar. And we all get into this situation. We're scrolling down and then we see, what's this? Someone else is in the Google Doc. Who is it? I mean, inevitably it's yourself in a different tab, but there's that sort of chill that you get immediately seeing like who's watching me. Ugh. Pretty scary stuff, guys. All right. Timflow, it is SOV. SOV. Yes. Yeah, I've never actually done an OVS language. Maybe one day I will. They're comparatively rare in Earth, whatever version in the multiverse, whatever Earth we're on, it's comparatively rare in that in our Earth. But who knows? Maybe in different realities there are tons of OVS languages. Right. Okay. So what's our next strategy? Let's make some Lenethailef that's more Lenethailef-y and some Lenethailef that's more Justamija-y. So not poetry. Here I am. There. All right, get out of there. So some stuff that's not poetry, so we don't have the excuse that we're fitting a poetic line to explain our messing around with structure. So let's have, I don't know, maybe like a little proverb. Something like, do not watch chickens eat, or something like that. So what I'm thinking is we could have proverb, do not watch chickens eat. Classic wisdom coming at you from the ancients. Let's go back to call and let's go to our lexicon and let's see what we have. So, do we have a word for chicken? Yes. But we don't know what it is in Justamija yet. Interesting. Okay, well, so furach is the word in I can change this to Lenethailef now. Right, so back to chicken. Furach. And so that's going to be in there. So right. Okay, over here. Furach. How are we going to express this negative imperative? Have we done that yet? I don't think we have. What we've done before is... Oh, no, wait. Let's look at the grammar. Do we have an inflective form? We have imperative, which ends in fa. Do we have a negative imperative? We inflect for negative, we inflect for imperative, so I think we'll need an auxiliary verb. We'll need an auxiliary verb for this. So maybe we could do something like want to not watch. So we have this verb want, I believe, in the lexicon. Want. Wenato. So let's see what happens to wenato in Lenethailef. Back to lexergy. Yenth. Interesting. That's kind of cool. And I think we have diphthong rounding harmony, so this would be... How come that's not working there? Oh, I'll have to look into that later. So this would be something like yenth. So let's put that into Lenethailef. Yenth. This spreadsheet's a mess right now. I acknowledge it. I think that's the most important thing, to just be honest with yourself about these kinds of things. But okay, yenth is our word. Let's inflect it for the imperative. The imperative is fa. So back to lexergy, wenato, wenato fa. And then we get Lenethailef. So Lenethailef. So this means want, as a command, want to do something. And how do we negate? How do we negate in this language? Goodness gracious. We have this new negative suffix. So what we could do is we could allow... Okay, now I've put myself into a bit of a corner. Moontruther is correct in saying that this should be written with the umlaut e, Lenethailef. Okay, and Moontruther, we do have a bunch of proverbs for the Sakrat languages, but at this point, so at this point in the history, we haven't actually had contact between Call speakers and Sakrat speakers yet. So I'm going to allow those proverbs to remain within the Sakratosphere for now. Maybe that's a very silly justification, but it's also a good excuse to make up a new proverb. So do not watch chickens eat. Maybe there's some sort of a religious prohibition. Echoed words, what is happening? We are working out some interesting details about the relationship between two of the languages that we've created or that we've been developing, Justamija and Lenethailef, and they are sister languages. They're related, but they also have this relationship where Justamija is the literary language and Lenethailef is more of the spoken language. So let's talk about this corner that I've painted myself into. So the verbs in protocol take endings, and they take endings where you are either negative or imperative or blah, 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 blah. But we need a negative imperative. So how are we going to do this? I was thinking we could have a periphrastic construction, a periphrastic using more than one word to express the meaning. So I was thinking we could say do not want to watch chickens eat. You know, this negative imperative coming from do not want is a pretty common grammaticalization pathway. You know, everywhere from Mandarin to Latin have this pathway. But then if that's the case, I'd have to nominalize watch. So because we still can't do a negative imperative of want. So I would have to say want to not watch, right? But then I can't say want to not watch, because that would mean I would have to nominalize that second verb watch. And nominalization, the substantive suffix, is mutually exclusive, or is in contrastive distribution with, to use the fancy term, is mutually exclusive with the negative. So we're in a tough space. I'm just going to hydrate briefly. This is for people who are serious about hydration, which everyone should be. So what we could do is make an exception for this one verb, to want. So we could have a form that's like wunatonu, meaning not to want, and that's the only one that is allowed to stack the negative and the imperative. Let's see what that would look like. So wunato fa, wunato nu fa, and this we would get something like yindonaf. That's not terrible. That's not terrible. Yindonaf. And if this is true, we could just have a negative imperative for everyone. What the heck is going on here? The Colin pressed only the keys challenge. Whoa. I just got an amazing idea from the chat. Hey, Engmashwa, welcome. W. Watson, credit where credit is due. Let's have a suppletive negative want. So something like shun, hate. Yes, this is a way out of our quandary. Hi, Gal. Welcome. And Timflo, what kind of language is it? It's mildly agglutinative, I would say. It's nothing too special, but nothing too far down that path. But we have some decent affixation. Okay, so let's look at coming up with a suppletive negative want. So where is our lexicon? So first of all, do we have a verb hate? Do we have a verb avoid? Do we have a shun? No, we do not. Okay, so what we can do is we can use one of our existing roots that we haven't claimed yet, and let's use something like muwo. Muwo. So this is hate, but it's also negative imperative. So given this, muwo fa. Move. Nice and concise. All right, so then we have our negative imperative, and then we'll turn the verb to watch into a nominalized form. So let's take a look and see what we have for watch. Watch, look, see. So we have osasa, to see or to know. I believe we also have something like wanakwo. Yes, look. There we go. So wanakwo. Put that together. Wanch. Cool. That sounds cool. And if we nominalize it, we get what? Go back to the grammar. Our substantive form is chakwa. So wanakwo chakwa. Wunrok. Okay. So then we have something like wunrok, muf, wunrok, furach, Now, okay, so we have something going on here. So let's gloss this. So this is negative imperative. This is what or look, nominalization. And then we have something chicken, and we have to contend with eating, right? So how are we going to do that? And the answer to this question is, well, let's look and see at least if we have some lexical material for eat. We do. Fayuli, which gives us the form hel. That's interesting. Lenethailef is an interesting language. So do not watch chickens eat. How are we going to take this? How are we going to take this embedded clause into? How are we going to embed it? We could do something like "do not watch the eating of chickens," and of course that's ambiguous in English when we say it like that. Do you mean do not watch it when chickens eat other things, or do you do not watch when other things eat chicken? Let's look at this nominalized strategy, and let's see what it comes out as. So, fayuli chakwa halik. I like that. So then we can make it like chicken genitive, eat, nominalize. So do not watch the chickens eating. Chicken apostrophe, yes. Chicken S apostrophe, I guess, in English. Genitive plural, right? So fortunately, the genitive in Lenethailef is identical to the nominative. It's just 0 marked. And then we get halik, which needs me to type a character that Windows does not know much about typing. So let me find it written somewhere in our sheet. Goodness gracious. Here we go. So then we have, do not watch chickens eat. Muf wan rok furig haluk. Halik, excuse me. Muf wan rok furig halik. Now, out of curiosity, how would we say, do not watch the eating of chickens. Do not watch chickens being eaten. That is another question. We talked about, at one point in Lenethailef, differences between different types of possession. So we have this, we have genitives that look like nominatives, and then we have a more explicitly marked genitive. I don't remember the context behind this, but I remember us talking about it. So I'm just going to try and find it to see if we ever made any progress on that. Ah, here we go. So I don't know if anyone remembers this, but Galactic Sand basically guessed it. We have this other form of possession that uses the dative. So we have huask month and huaskanum month. So we have the genitive possession and the dative of possession. And I think we could take advantage of this distinction to get at the subjective versus objective genitive. Like, well, okay, too many terms. In English, if you say don't watch the eating of the chickens, is the chicken the subject or the object? So in Lenethailef, we can use the genitive marker, one case, to express one meaning, and the dative marker to express another, because we already have this concept in the language that there are two types of possession, one marked with genitive, one marked with dative. Dative case, in this context, is just the name of one of the forms of the noun, but specifically, so here is an example, the noun wan, meaning I, we have the dative form wanenum. Dative is typically the name given to the case that is used to mark the recipient of verbs like to give. So if you say, I give the bottle to my friend, if the language marks my friend with a specific case marker, then that's probably going to be called dative. So in this case, dative has more uses than just the recipient of those kinds of verbs like to give or send, these ditransitive verbs. In this case, it's used for a certain type of possession. Now, we could talk about what kind of possession, what the distinction between Huascmanth, Lake of the Crow, and Huascanamanth, Lake to the Crow. We can talk about what this distinction is. Is it alienable possession versus inalienable possession? That's a distinction that often comes up. What would be a good one? Is it something to do with the animacy of the possessor? I don't know. We can discuss. But let's finish this. Let's finish this sentence before we move on too far. So we have, do not watch others eating chickens. The question is, which one do we want to be which? I actually think that the genitive should be used for others eating chickens and the dative for chickens eating. I don't know why. There's just a bit of an instinct that suggests that if we have the dative marker, it's less connected to the action. I'm going to be very technical and highfalutin here, but the dative possessor seems to me to be less connected to the action. The genitive possessor here, I don't know why. It's not scientific. It's just a gut feeling. So let's take chicken and put it into the dative case, which is not an easy task in Lenethailef. There's always some kind of complication because the sound changes are so elaborate. But we have, nope, that was a failure of epic proportions. Pukwakwa or pukwakwa, the word for chicken. And then we need to figure out what the dative nama. Okay. Pukwakwanama. Fararanam. Fararanam. Oh my goodness. I've neglected the chat for a few minutes and there are so many good ideas in here. Whoops. All right. So let's do fararanam. So this is these are our two sentences. Muf wen rok fararanam halik. Do not watch chickens eat. And muf wen rok furach halik. Do not watch others eating chickens. Cool. And I remember the whole point of this was to show you the difference between Lenethailef style and Justamija style sentences. We went down some rabbit holes. So I think I'll put a cut in here for YouTube. And then we'll continue in just a moment. So YouTube, thanks for joining us. We had fun. We seem to be kind of chicken themed in this con world. I'm okay with it. Well, so come back if you want to see more chicken related proverbs and things. We're going to be continuing developing these languages as we go. So yeah, check back when you have a moment and you'll probably see some more.